Welcome back to another episode of the Day After podcast, and we had quite an episode this last time.
Yeah, I'm still kind of like coming off the cusp of it. Granted, like Joe and I, we were catching up and everything prior, but there was definitely a tonal shift.
Mhm,
It was it was interesting because like in the beginning, it did format itself to be a very straightforward episode.
mhm,
Um, though, like obviously, when they're throwing out Romeo's name, especially after that little bit between him and High,
yeah,
about Romeo writing down High's name, it did seem pretty obvious that oh yeah, Romeo was going to go home. However, then they threw out some stuff about Roxroy, and then it's like okay, so I kind of see what you guys are doing. And then when they ended up on the same team, I was like, yeah, I can see this flipping very
yeah,
easily.
yeah. I was like 99% sure Roxroy was going home in his first confessional when he was bringing up the whole guys alliance and that we got to stick together as the guys, and then the quick cut to Omer, who has clearly been shown as the biggest player, saying no. Like immediately when that happens, I'm like, okay, Roxroy has just made out a move that the biggest player, who no one knows is the biggest player yet, does not agree with, which usually is not a good sign for his game. And they just made it so clear that Romeo was on the outs of everything that it was like, well, they're not voting Romeo. Like, there's like the Survivor would have tried something to make it seem bigger, that it
Yeah,
was someone else.
they like a little intrigue with this, and
Yeah.
I mean because like when the teams got like divided, the only one that had like an idol or any advantage actually, the only person was Mike, and Mike was the safest person there.
Mhm.
Like I feel like he is definitely someone where he's pretty much set at least up until seven. And the only reason I bring up
Mhm.
seven is because of the do or die,
Yeah,
depending on
do or
how that
die.
comes out.
I will say I know it's another one of her people, but I think Lindsay has a chance of taking this do or die and losing. Mostly because she has been edited very under edited, and there's a theory that Lydia got under edited because of the hourglass twist. Potentially, Lindsay's also getting a bit more of an under edited for the do or die, like if she ends up losing.
We'll see.
So
I mean,
yeah, we
I
still have to
only
see.
have her and Drea.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say right now you are locked into not winning. There is like
I
at
think
least in terms of points, you cannot win at this point.
no, that it's impossible
Yeah,
unless, yeah, it's impossible. Like I kind of
yeah,
figured going in, I'm just like, I don't know if you play D&D or any of our viewers play D&D,
mhm.
but there's this spell called Magic Missile. And when you cast the spell, it is guaranteed to hit no matter what. And I feel like anytime there's an opportunity to get rid of one of my peeps, the
Yeah.
survivor producers cast Magic Missile and
Mhm.
just hit
Yeah.
right then.
Yeah, I found it so funny because when Roxbury went home, I then looked at the other tribe and I was like, okay, Jonathan has immunity. Marianne is an idol. She's probably not going home. Like, there's no way she's going home this episode. So her choices of going home are Tori, Drea, and Lindsay, all people of yours. And I'm like, oh, Ryan, I'm so sorry. You took both of these hits.
Yeah, I kind of was like it was gonna happen. I kind of went,
Yeah.
it's one of the things where it's a fun little thing between us. Like in the grand scheme of things, I do like a lot of the people that you chose, but when
Yeah.
you're blindly choosing people out of interviews, you never really know.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm doing just this well because I had a huge priority on the Taku tribe as a whole. And there's like a few people, like key players on the other tribes, I was like, oh, they might do something good. But overall, I kind of just prioritized Taku because I was like, they're at least making this merge, or who knows what happens at that point. But they're probably not pre-merge except for Mariah, which was unexpected.
Yeah, it happened.
Yeah.
Anywho, but when the tribes did get, divided how they were, and I saw Tori facing Jonathan, I'm
Mhm.
like, yes, we have seen the showdown before. However, Jonathan is a surfer.
Mhm.
Um, so like balancing on waves is a lot of what that requires. It's
Yeah.
like 95%. Well, I don't know the exact percentages. I've never surfed,
Mhm.
but it's a very important part of it.
Yeah, I
Like,
know other survivors who are bigger have decided hating this challenge because of the footholds.
yeah,
So it is impressive that despite the foothold not being the best, he was still able to outdo Lindsay. And I would say I think this is one of my favorite versions of that challenge, like iterations, because well, yeah, with those waves, it really made everything more intense and like everyone had crazy saves like High, Lindsay, and Jonathan. All three of them
Romeo
kept
too.
yeah, and
Romeo
Romeo.
too.
Yeah, he was going in there for a while. Yeah, they were having just like they kept doing it. Like usually you see that happen like once, maybe twice, like for a person, but like they were doing it 4, 5, 6 times of just it seemed like they were out and then
Yeah,
they got right back.
yeah. I mean, like, it was interesting to watch because, like, it was like, oh, would it be Jonathan? Or like, when the teams were divided, I kind of figured when I was looking at the guy tribe or the
Mhm.
guy team. I
Yeah,
did look and I'm like, it's probably going to be Romeo or High, just
yeah,
like due to like, oh, no offense to the other ones, just
yeah.
the other three didn't look as coordinated
I agree.
as the other two.
Yeah,
Um,
Rocktroy and Mike, I kind of figured we're going to be quick, takeouts of this kind of challenge. And then
yeah,
Omer, I don't think I think his challenges really are the puzzles. Anything kind of physical or endurance, I think he's probably not winning those.
yeah,
Mhm.
um, yeah. It was so it was kind of obvious, like for that one, it wasn't like I would say like it could have been Romeo, just in the
Mhm.
simple fact of like, oh, if he wins, then where does that put, those four? And
Mhm.
I thought that would have been interesting, but it didn't happen.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, we still got like a blind side out of it, which was which it had a huge impact on the game because
yeah. Little did they know that vote really changed the course of the season, I think.
I mean, like, we'll get to that in a sec, but like to the lead up to that, I mean, it looked
Mhm.
like it was going to be Drea, Marianne, or Tori, and
Mhm.
like Jonathan made a good point. Drea had, you know, technically two advantages that he would have been aware of
Mhm.
because like Marianne went to the island with Drea for the prisoner's dilemma, so like
Mhm.
it's understandable to think that, oh, she would also have an extra vote. um but like the fact that like it was like getting rid of Tori or having Tori as like the safe vote was probably, Lindsay was right where, yeah, that was probably the like better idea.
Yeah. Well,
um
yeah, what's interesting about that vote, it really goes pretty much the same way as like if in terms of like if everyone was playing like how they should have, that it goes the exact same way that it would have had they done the formal votes and everything that we would have seen. Because obviously Drea would have played her idol, Marianne would have been like, oh, I'm the decoy vote, I gotta play my idol now. So she plays the
yeah,
idol, 0 votes happen, and then they would have just collapsed on Tori after that anyway. So
yeah, that's pretty
um
fair. Yeah,
so even though like it's huge tribal, huge blowout, the result would basically be the same. There's obviously that like does Dre play the idol, but like it seems the second she walks in and sees Rocktroy, she's like, well, I can't be the next one out. So
yeah. It is something that it definitely changed the episode
yeah.
because like it took into a way different thing where it was like, okay, that survival Survivor Tribal Council, the second one, had zero strategy talk, which
Yeah.
is, it was straight up like, you know, hey, yeah, I don't want to see three, you know, Black people, specifically, you know, African American, because like, you know, it's a very diverse season. So like the odds of like three POCs being eliminated in a row is very likely.
Yeah.
However, specifically African American, it's something where, you know, like obviously we're not, you know, African American or a POC, so it's hard for us to like see things in that regard.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have noticed it unless it happened.
Yeah,
or
that
something.
wasn't where my mind first went. My mind went, hey, Drea and Rockshroy are very close allies. So
Yeah,
she must be upset now that her closest ally, or at least like what it seemed like was her closest ally, is gone. That's like where my head went to right away.
and yeah, and I mean like, you know, there's two things that have to be addressed here, and I feel like one of them was that, you know, like Drea in and on herself was a threat. A lot of people think Drea was the one to like, you know, like a lot of people are like, she's a great player, she's got a lot of advantages, but she has a lot of targets on her back.
Yeah.
So like she would be right to get out around this time. So like, and Jonathan was like, right, it was like Drea is like pretty powerful and she's a strong woman. She, you know, is good to kind of get rid of, especially in this kind of like scenario when it breaks to 5. There's definitely a lot of blind sides that happen during this whenever Survivor does the break into 2 different tribes.
Yeah, exactly. I think Jonathan did handle the episode pretty poorly after his immunity win, just in general of, you know, he does know it is I think a good strategy when you win immunity to not just sit back. We've seen people like Tyson use this very effectively. We've seen Tony Vlachos especially was on that immunity streak, and that was the time that he changed the game pretty much. So yeah. I do think that's a good inkling, but you know, it's clear that everyone knows his strategy is not very good. The idea of letting Maryanne know that she's the decoy vote, like, you know, Tori's the real decoy votes. So I guess maybe he didn't trust Maryanne also having an idol. It's like, if we can flush Drea's idol, we can also flush Maryanne's idol. But I don't think he was thinking that hard. I'm not sure. Maybe he'll explain it more next episode. But yeah, if they wanted to you know, play a little more safer, Tori would have been the easier sell to everyone.
Yeah, I mean, like, because like Lindsay, she's in a good place. They're not going to you know, like, yeah, like her and like Jonathan were arguing about you know, what to do and like about strategy, but at the same time, like, they're close, really close allies. Like, I would say it's hard to see because we haven't really seen too much strategy from Jonathan in that regard, and like, oh, would he betray Omar or when? So like, we're still kind of like learning people's strategies when it comes to here in the merge.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like he might have some problems, like kind of like Xander did. Like, even though I think us as viewers really liked Xander and thought he was playing a great game and we really enjoyed him on the screen, I wonder if that perception is not really there for everyone out there in terms of you know, like, if he gets to the end, are they going to just think, oh, he was just this dumb meathead that's, you know, won some challenges and got to the end? Or are they going to want to give it to someone who you know, maybe is more likable, you know, is was a better strategic threat than Jonathan? So I'm not sure. We'll obviously have to see on that, but I could definitely see their perception of him going into a final tribal not being super high if they value strategy.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, it's always impressive when a comp beast makes it to the end. Like, granted, usually it's by hulking out or something like that. I mean, this was the first one individual immunity challenge he won.
Yeah.
However, like there's still a bunch more gameplay to be played, so we don't know like the full prowess quite just yet.
Yeah, I will say we've talked about it probably every episode so far. Weakest casts of physically strong players we've had in a very, very long time, at least. And at first, I thought that was great for Jonathan because he's like the strongest guy we've seen in a very, very long time, maybe ever, and he's on one of the weakest seasons. I think that might hurt him because I think a lot of them are not going to value these immunity challenges as well as if they had some, kind of broy kind of guys who are out there to do well in these kind of challenges. He might get Mike's votes if Mike is on the jury, and he might get Omer's. And Lindsay's up there too. I think those are the three that are up there, but I don't know about anyone else after that.
Well, I mean, the jury would be comprised of 8 people.
Yeah.
3. That means like he would tie with someone else if he's guaranteed 3, and then it would go to whomever was the one that didn't get enough votes. That's the thing. It's like we also have to take into account who would be blindsided prior to that. And I think with the game moving forward, we also have to kind of address, like how that tribal council went down, in the sense of like, it was also another thing where, and Jonathan, he brought up something where sometimes, it's like, he was like, wait, am I low-key being accused of being racist, or all of us? Because it's like, I feel like it's a human thing where, like when something is more obvious to others and they don't see it, and especially, am I being racist, or like, and like not wanting to come off that way, because like obviously we don't think that way, but when we don't see that stuff, it feels like, oh crap, am I, being perceived that way, and like panic mode.
No one wants to have a Jeff Varner situation happen to them randomly at a tribal council. It's definitely not something that's fun, especially like I really don't think anyone out there was thinking this. We as the audience get to see what happened on the other side to create the Rocksroy elimination. Was just they all didn't want to play with Rocksroy because he wasn't. It was established he's set in his ways, like he's going to decide something at the beginning of the decision-making process and he will stick with it.
Well, I mean, that's the kind of interesting thing too, in that regard, and it's going to be discussed because like, I believe it was Marianne that said of like, not getting the full story and everything. And granted, they're just saying Rocksroy up there. Rocksroy can't say anything. And like the thing is, like, so like they are kind of like how that kind of went down. It wasn't regardless of like why Rocksroy got eliminated. It was the fact of like seeing like, if there's 3, people of the same ethnicity in a row, it just sends like a bad message. And so like that just kind of became the tribal council. And I feel like, Survivor is a, micro, what is the word?
Microcosm
or chasm. Anyway, of like real life. And, real life, especially these days, it's about promoting more and giving voices to people who haven't had some in the past. And, so like there are some things that are like bigger than the game, and there obviously is. And I feel like this is not how I wanted Tori to go out. I knew like eventually she had to go, especially winning 2 individual challenges. She proved herself to like be someone, a threat in that regard, at least like, if she's taking away immunity, I don't have the chance of getting immunity. However, like it was more so of like, because like things were for the, like it was bigger than the game, and just to be sure that, it's not because they played a race card, that they have legitimate reasons they played their idols, so that way it's like they were immune, so there was no way like it was like purely based off that. And so like Tori was kind of like, well, it's me or her, and like it's kind of like that awkward thing where it's like, well, I understand where you're coming from, but I also want to win $1 million.
Yeah.
And it was just like I wouldn't say an awkward elimination, but it was like one where it was like, I think Jeff put it best, an unusual one where it's kind of like, well, this happened, and then she had to play her shot in the dark because
I thought it was going to say safe. I really did. I really thought we were about to see an advantage get in moment happen with Lindsay.
I mean, this was the fourth one, right? The fourth time a shot in the dark has been played.
Yeah. So everyone from Ika besides Roxroy has played their shot in the dark at the tribal they go home.
So that's 3, and then I know Maria played hers, right?
Mariah, yes, Mariah played it.
Or Maria or Mariah.
Yeah, it's Mariah. It's weird because it seems like it should be Maria, but it's Mariah.
I just want to also say, like English is just weird, and there was someone that posted something where Mike wrote Chanel's name wrong, and then it's funny. I was doing DoorDash today, and because like Mike wrote it down as channel, and then I picked up an order, and the woman's name was Chanel, spelled the same way. And then I'm like, English is a weird language. Or just like, the dramatic alphabet, it's weird.
Yeah, so I've come up with the great Survivor strategy. If you want to hear it, it might be helpful for anyone out there who's looking to play.
I have one too that I thought of.
Yeah. If you ever know someone has an idol, but you don't want them out, but you want to potentially flush the idol, and you can basically only really do this early on from like meeting them, so like at the merge or something, and we have another situation where everyone knows where the idols are because they had to say some silly phrase. Basically, if you just like are in a conversation and you just ask like, so is your name spelled like this, and then like almost like do that, you can give them that paranoia of, should I play this idol right now, without actually having to commit any like votes really to like trying to get the flush.
I mean, it's a ballsy move too, because like the thing is, naming a name is always like, oh shit. Like I feel like if you manipulated someone to go up to someone and ask that would be fucked. So there isn't blood. But my strategy that I thought of, also while I was door dashing, was that it would be so great if I ever go on to play a season and someone's name is Brian, and then I want it to be really early on, and that way I could fuck with people. It's like, no, Brian, no, I'm Brian, he's Ryan. If I was in hot trouble, I'd be like, no, he's Brian, I'm Brian. And then like, because
you can get people to have them write the wrong name.
Yes.
Yeah, that it can only really work on like a maybe first vote, maybe, and that's even then.
The only time I could ever see it happen was in Vanuatu when there was 2 guys named John. And so like if you got the wrong last name, you voted the wrong John out.
You lie and say that your last name is their last name, and then it's like, who's telling the truth? It's the Spider-Man meme where they're pointing.
I don't know. I have a very common look as well, and so like if granted Survivor pretty good about, I mean, at least these days, of not having 2 people that look too identical. I know I just brought up Vanuatu, but that was also like almost 20 years ago.
They tried something with that guy tribe, and not as good.
And I would be like, no, that wasn't me, that was him. Because like I get confused with people all the time. Big insecurity actually, but it happens so much, it is downright comical. they'll be like, I could have sworn I saw you in Burbank. I haven't been in Burbank in like almost a year. There's no way
Mhm,
you saw me. It's like, no, I swore it was you. I'm like, no, it wasn't.
mhm.
Anywho, that little thing aside.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, getting back to Survivor 42, I will say because of this tribal, I think Marianne and Drea looked great for the first two jury members. I think if either of them said at the end, I think they're probably getting their votes. And if the other, and I think Drea and Marianne, last week I was saying I don't think either of them will vote for each other. I think the fact that Marianne did play her idol to like stand with Drea, because a lot of people
Yeah.
were giving her flack like strategically about playing her idol there, because it was like an open discussion and she still played her idol. Like she could have saved it if she was willing to try it, but ultimately I think it's just better to stand with
yeah.
someone in this. It looks great for the jury, and
I
yeah.
think it was something where, and I think they kind of mentioned
Mhm.
it too, where, it was something beyond jury. And I feel
Yeah,
like I think going forward, they will think about that
yeah,
because, like, obviously, after you do something, you kind of think
yeah,
about the consequences, or at least
yeah.
you
I don't
should.
I should say I don't think this was a jury move. Like, let me play this
No, no, no,
idol
no.
for the jury votes. I
But
was just saying, like,
it will going forward. They'll be like, oh yeah.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I feel like they put it better. It's something that they just had to do because Survivor is no stranger to controversy, and neither are their contestants. And I
mhm,
think it was something where I feel like Drea was expecting controversy to happen because, like,
mhm,
I've seen it on the Facebook thing I'm in, where some people don't like it when people bring up you
yeah,
know political stuff on Survivor or like stuff about race.
mhm,
Um, and so, like, with something like that, she already knew it was like, like, having going forward with that, this is going to be a controversial thing. So I have to like stand for what is right and
mhm,
like give us like a out of like,
yeah,
okay, we played our advantages, so like they couldn't do it. However, I do think it's unfortunate for them because like they lost their advantages purely because like they wanted to make sure that they were wanting to make sure they were standing up for themselves. And I'm like trying to think of like the best way to phrase things because I don't want to speak for them, obviously, because like their reason is their reason, just out of what I observed. Because they wanted to stand up and like want to make sure that going forward they made it at least less controversial, where on paper they both played their idols, so therefore they couldn't be voted out. I think it's just uh it just sucked that that was kind of the thing where they had to play it.
yeah, exactly. And interesting now for Drea's knowledge is power, because I think Marianne was probably one of the expected choices for taking Marianne's idol.
Yeah.
So now she pretty much only has Mike as someone to take from, and I mean, I thought they were going to work with each other a little further before something like that happens.
Yeah.
We might even not even see her really use it, because knowledge power is one of those kind of things. Like, if you use it, you're basically saying this person isn't voting for me, and if they have close people and if they make it through this tribal council and they have close people, they're probably also not going to vote for me. Like, you lose a lot of win equity for playing it. It's really it kind of is actually a desperation play. Like, despite it seeming so powerful, it does cripple your social game moving forwards.
I never really thought of it that way. I think
Yeah.
like it's a different thing, like if you're on a bottom or you're using
Mhm.
against someone that's on the bottom,
Yeah.
like what Liana did
Yeah.
last season, where it was kind of like, they were also trying to get rid of an idol from like, the people that were on the bottom of like, the tribe to like flush it out.
Yeah.
So Xander didn't have it anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like it is something where I think kind of like with anything, any like advantage and stuff, what you do with it also says something about how you like, like, how's it going forward? It's like, oh, you played an idol. Did you not trust us? Oh, you
Um,
played your shot in the dark. Did you not trust us? Oh, you used your extra vote. Why were you doing your own plan? Like,
yeah,
I think that's obviously, I think that is something that would probably cross their minds of like, all right, or I'm making these bold assumptions. I think everyone thinks like me when it comes to strategy.
yeah,
No, some people may not think that far ahead. Like Jonathan. Jonathan may not think about, oh, play this advantage now, and
yeah,
not truly think out all the avenues of like
yeah.
the consequences.
Yeah, he's thinking like, but if we get it past Drea, then we're fine. That's all that matters in this moment. When Lindsay's just like, well, Marianne goes. But I mean, yet again, it would have gone that way. I think, like if I was in Jonathan's position and that I did bring up that Marianne's the decoy vote, I would have been like, well, we're telling her Drea plays it. She's also playing it, and Tori goes. So like, at the end of the day, Taku 4. So here we only have 2 people from Vati and only 2 people from Ika.
Yeah, both
So
two eco eliminations in the same episode.
yeah, so if Taku sticks around and makes another vote, they will have majority. However, we have seen Omer has actually cited Jonathan as someone that he doesn't really want to be in like a final 5, final 6 scenario with, because he was saying he can't win any immunities. I think as Omer, I think you're okay with having someone as strong as Jonathan winning these challenges if you're in the majority.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because if someone's winning them, then the
Yeah,
person you're targeting isn't getting them.
exactly.
Um,
And I think Omer beats Jonathan in the end. I think his case will just be much better overall.
yeah,
Yeah,
I agree. I feel like he's playing. I think, yeah, we are past the halfway mark now.
yeah,
Um, so like it is a good place to like kind of assess everyone's game.
mhm,
Omer definitely, I think, is playing the best game out there. I think High's in the place where I think he's starting to let his color show in a regard, or like he's been called out on it, and I think people will grow wise.
yeah. I think
Um,
him winning this immunity actually was kind of bad for him, like weirdly, because I think his threat level is much more out in the open as like, hey, we can't let this guy get much further. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if in the next like 2 episodes or so, High is the one getting his torch stuffed. It's
yeah,
um
I think it's very possible. I feel like in that moment though,
mhm,
especially because
yeah,
the first three guys, they dropped fast.
yeah,
And so it was down to them.
yeah,
Romeo was like the safe boat, the safe target.
yeah,
And like if I was High, if let's say Romeo did win that, I would have been sweating bullets, because like
mhm,
out of like the other three, yeah, he's close with Mike, but like especially since usually with when there's five, when they have this split, they
mhm,
kind of want to. It's definitely an opportunity to make big moves, and usually it is a big move that is played here. And
mhm,
so like if it was High, I don't know, like yeah, he could have used his amulet to get like an extra vote or something and maybe tied it, but that doesn't work because he couldn't vote, and then he just basically just had a tied vote,
mhm.
and couldn't really do anything else.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's one of those things like when you're in the challenge, I think you just got to compete. It's hard to really
Yeah,
like calculate like, but it's just one of those things to keep note. I think a lot of people are gonna now that Tori's gone, one of the only other person to win immunity is now gone. High and Jonathan are now the only people left in the game to win an immunity. I don't think Jonathan goes home next week. I think he will win at least one more immunity challenge. um, I do think he kind of has to beast out a little bit now. I think
yeah,
he's going to like the second challenge beast wins an immunity, they better be winning like every immunity. Like they might be able to strive one time without doing it, but you're kind of on a countdown then to just be able to win everything. So but I do think he's winning at least one more. I think they've set him up so much for him to just win one challenge, one immunity. I think I think we're at least seeing another one here.
It's definitely possible. The thing is, now that like Tori is gone, there's only
Mhm.
like two people that have won like an individual challenge,
Mhm.
and so it's kind of like up in the air. And like those two are like the ones that are known for like winning the challenge. I mean,
Mhm.
Jonathan put it best. It was like, you can't come in guns blazing, even though
Yeah.
like he kind of did in the challenges, and like Jeff was like, yeah, you totally did, and he's like, thank Mr. Jeff. Um, I don't think
Yeah.
we've ever commented on that little nickname he
Yeah,
has.
Mr. Jeff. Yeah. So good. Yeah, I like it. But I mean, I think Jonathan, if he can take out High in this next immunity challenge, or at this next tribal, he's gonna have a run of it with a lot of it, because Tori was good at these modern day immunity challenges. I think she was one of the better ones at what we typically see nowadays for these challenges. I think High is probably one of the next ones to really challenge him. Lindsay maybe also has like that potential.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will say with Lindsay, since we're talking about like everyone and where they might go forward,
Mhm.
she is the one where, yeah, you've mentioned it, doesn't have the much screen time and stuff like
Mhm.
that. I
Yeah.
think she would make a good sleeper. I just don't really see it happening.
Yeah. Well, the problem with her right now is she's not like no one's commenting about her, and she's not commenting about her gameplay. She's commenting on other people's games, which is typically not something a winner had. Like that's not something that
Yeah,
we see happen there. Even
yeah,
Natalie White in Samoa still had like a confessional that set up that that she's gonna kill the rats that are there. So like they were still trying to like show like, look at me playing my game.
yeah, yeah.
And
Because
we,
at the end of the day, they still have to like have like the winner be earned in some regard, even if it's
yeah,
like a sleeper threat or a
yeah,
controversial winner.
yeah. And
Um,
by this point, Erica had the hourglass. I'm pretty much saying like, if you're not getting your kind of story at this point, I don't think Survivor's going to do another like
yeah,
wait till the end of the game to let it start happening.
yeah. But other than Lindsay, I feel like everyone else,
Mhm.
has prominent,
Yeah.
like confessionals and stuff. Like especially like in later parts when Tori wasn't, the Tori, I was like, yeah, she's not going to win. Not just because of that, but also she wasn't getting too much confessional love either.
Mhm.
Drea, she has to play what advantages she has left strategically. She does. I will say it is tricky though.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
know,
I'm hoping that her and Marianne do make it at least a couple more votes, just to at least kind of create, a little more
of a
get,
bond.
yeah, you can bond, and just overall just making it further in the game, so we don't have to kind of relive this whole thing about
Yeah,
just sending home the black contestants here.
I I will say this mostly because of like just purely out of observation.
Mhm.
Um, if we are looking at that, there's only two people left that aren't a POC, which would be Jonathan and Lindsay. And even then, Lindsay is, Jewish, and some people consider that a minority as well.
Yeah.
It really,
It's straight white guys are typically the ones that you really look at as like oh, they're not there's a little less respect there. At least women are considered in that part, because we have had so many men winners, specifically straight
yeah,
white men in a row. We had Nick Wilson, Chris Underwood, Tommy Sheehan, and Tony Vlachos, four straight white guys in a row winning.
yeah.
So
I mean, what you gonna do?
yeah.
I mean, like, more so in the sense of like, you know, if we're talking odds, not even of like the influence of the vote or whatnot,
Mhm.
odds are the next person that would be eliminated, just purely based on statistic and like who is being targeted with the things,
Mhm.
would be a POC,
Mhm.
not just specifically, Marianne or Drea,
Yeah.
but like a POC in general, because like
Yeah.
those are really the only people that are, you know, playing the game still.
Yeah, I will bring up something also that I think is really important to potentially Omer win here, actually, was that Marianne brought up Omer being Muslim, and no Muslim has ever made it to the merge. And that, shapes his game. Like, they made sure to include Marianne bringing up Omer here as well, doing it. Obviously doesn't necessarily mean the winner there, but they made the effort to include him in this kind of conversation.
I guess this is another thing that kind of I did think of. It does bring up a subject too of like going forward,
Mhm.
is it going to be a vote of like, okay, well, we've had people like this win before. Is that going to play a factor into a lot of jury? Because it played somewhat of a factor in the sense of like how Xander didn't get any votes, even though he played a respectable game. It is something where going forward, how much of that will weigh in like who is chosen to be the winner, because it's up to a vote and people can vote however they want. People have voted on based on like who chose the right number.
Yeah.
Or like, that I'd say like that's just kind of like the odd duck out of the bunch.
Mhm.
But um so like people are free to vote however they choose, and if they made it to the jury phase, especially if they're rewarding someone or hoping to reward someone with $1 million, they want to be strategic with it.
Mhm.
I guess it's you know are people going to be more conscious of like who they get rid of and when, in that
Yeah.
regard, of like, okay, maybe we should keep Omer around so he has a chance to be the first like Muslim winner or something
Yeah.
like that. I know this could be like a odd, or not odd, an uncomfortable conversation point to like, but it is a thing where strategy is kind of like, then I'm not like saying like, oh, this is just like how Survivor is going to be from now on, but it is something where, given like the social, setting of the game, and like the meta of it,
Yeah.
not in like a like, oh, no white person can ever win Survivor again, but more so of like,
Yeah, you're you're
is that
you're
something?
trying to evenly distribute who's going home, and maybe, yeah, it might become a little more of a conscious effort, honestly, of just like
Yeah,
people knowing like, oh, wait a second, we just eliminated two people of the same ethnicity. Let's not get rid of this person because like this round, because
it might look
it
bad.
might look bad, yeah, and they are contestants, they know they're on a show, and no one wants to go on Survivor and look bad like in a huge public setting. uh
Especially with like that.
yeah, so having, maybe after every couple votes, these kind of just like look around, see who, what kind of people aren't being targeted. And it's in previous seasons, whenever you have someone like these who are, very unique racial backgrounds and everything, they do get targeted early on because the likability factor, and the fact that if they get to the end, a lot of seasons like when they have a first time winner of a certain kind, because it just makes the season seem a little more special that way. So
Yeah,
it can definitely
that's
be
fair.
scary sometimes when someone who hasn't when someone who you haven't seen someone like that win the game. It can definitely be like, huh, so yeah, it's one of these things, like, strategically it's hard to really say if this is good, but you also have to know as people, and what they're thinking as it's the season that they are on, could definitely effectively shape every like 3 votes or so.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Now, how much that's going to play into like
Mhm.
episodes going forward,
Yeah.
who's to say? But like the meta and starting out, yeah, I feel like it could potentially have. I don't think it's a bad thing at
Mhm.
all. It's just more so of like that's just another level to this complex game, and
Mhm.
that's also going to be added. Is like that social um eliminations as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the reason I think we're seeing so much about the racial stuff these 2 seasons, because obviously last season had just a long strand of episodes kind
Yeah.
of centered around it. I mean, it's just the casting now. Now people are, if they get to the merge and only, maybe one or two of their ethnicity is gone, they have a lot of people now to connect over that. There's, it's not just like they're going there and now maybe they have one person they are now immediately considered the duo and you have to take them out.
Yeah.
Now they're going there and they're getting a group of four. And that was scary in 41. Like they saw this group of people getting together who seemed very tight and they tried to quickly split it up pretty much. So it's so hard to tell because it's one of these things where I think we are going to keep seeing stuff like this if because of casting overall. I think it might not necessarily be black people. We might have all different types of ethnicities kind of having their
Yeah.
time like this pretty much. um but yeah, it's something that will definitely shape moving forward, and especially now people watching these seasons and then going out, they're going to have this now forefront in their mind about this kind of stuff, and it might ultimately decide the next 2 seasons.
Yeah. I think that could.
Mhm.
All
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
So we still need to award the MVP and LVP.
Mhm.
I would say this one, I'd say LVP is Roxroy in the sense of
Mhm.
like he tried to start bro alliance, like
Yeah.
an all male alliance,
Yeah,
and then
which
he
will
also
never happen in modern day Survivor. Like, there's
yeah,
just no way that you're going to get like a bunch of people in 2022, 2023, whatever year, and get them all to ride the sausage party. Like it's not going to happen. You're going to have there's going to be at least a couple guys in a merge that want to work with the girls. Like there's like High and Romeo want to work with the girls. Like
also
Omer
like
wants to work with the girls. Yeah, like
also in modern Survivor, you want to be fluid with
yeah,
like your alliances.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I never like, and this is the thing also with like gender and racial alliances. They will not last unless you start in those kind of divisions. Those are the only reasons why we've had female dominated seasons like make it far, is
Yeah,
because they started like that and then managed to stay with it for a while. So yeah, I'm just in the belief that eventually you're gonna have to crack because it's Survivor. Everyone out there wants to make the big move. So it's one of these things. Like I think you shouldn't also be upset if you create a racial alliance and they turn on each other. I really think they're making their own moves. Like you still have to respect each player for making their moves,
yeah,
regardless of how your alliance was made, pretty much.
yeah. I mean, like because
Mhm.
we've had people align over religion before.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
people are going to if they want to work together, they're going to work together, and their reasons is their reason. Uh,
Mhm.
could be that one contestant finds this one person reminds them of someone in their own personal life, something like that. Like, people are going to be drawn to other people based
Mhm.
on their own like thing. And you
Yeah.
can't, and this is one where especially um like you mentioned, these days, since there is, a lot more diversity here, and I feel like people are more socially conscious, like, oh yeah, let's do this because this haven't really been done before. Oh, it wouldn't be cool if this happened. So yeah. um
Yeah. Yeah, I would say Rockstro is a good candidate. I think Jonathan does have a good reason because I do think he is on a
the
chopping
social.
block. Yeah, his social game has plummeted. I don't think he's honestly winning the game at this point. I think his best case is a similar Xander's position of getting to the end and being like, I won all these challenges, and they're like, well, so what? We don't care about challenges.
Yeah.
So I think that's his fates kind of got ended because I thought he had good chances up to this episode, and this episode, in my opinion, stomped them. But we shall still see. Who are you thinking of MVP?
MVP, you know, I kind of have to. It's a little tough because part of me wants to say Romeo in the regard of like he was in such a deep hole, and then he was able to be like, okay, and he was able to get out of it. However, I feel like also the circumstance was also High's move as well to be like, yeah.
Mhm.
And then also Omar being like, yeah, but why not get rid of Roxroy?
Mhm.
Um, I will say I'm going to give it to Romeo purely because he was able to get out of that situation, and moving forward, I feel like he might actually be in a very prime position.
I'm going to give it to Drea this episode because I think that she's going to come out of this in one of the best spots. Honestly, I don't think she's going to go home next week. I really think that everyone there is going to have a little more respect for her. I think she's got more win equity has been put into her survivor bank accounts, if you want to
Yeah.
say. And yeah, and now that her idol's gone, that's the one thing that everyone really knew. I mean, there's obviously the advantage amulet kind of thing, but ultimately, like, her big target threat of the idol is now gone.
Yeah.
So,
And she didn't even play it in a way where it was like, oh, for a blindside or on the bottom. She didn't
yeah.
use it in like to the traditional strategic sense.
Mhm.
So like there's no blood on playing the idol either,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
usually there is.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't think Tori obviously she didn't want to go home here, but I don't think she's gonna hold it towards either Dre or Marianne, like, personally on this one. So they might be upset. She might be upset that they voted for her, but like obviously like they're not
Well, I
voting.
mean, like
So
she made a great point. It was like,
yeah,
well, why not Lindsay? I
yeah.
mean, like at that point, she didn't argue like no that they shouldn't play their idols. She was like,
Mhm.
all right, well,
How about her?
Lindsay,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
uh,
That's Tori's strategy this whole season was, let's just throw you under the bus now, and she tried it one last time and just couldn't quite get it out.
I mean, I don't blame her. And then
Yeah,
like if you, like the shot in the dark, you kind of have to if you're going to go home.
exactly.
You might as well have some closure that you at least tried everything, which I think,
Mhm.
I don't know, if I were to ever go on Survivor and the shot in the dark is still there, and like I knew that fate wasn't in my hands, I feel like
Mhm.
it is like a thing to play because it's
Yeah,
like at
yeah.
least at least I know.
Yeah, I think it should also be noted Jonathan was the person to, like, when the open discussion happened, he was like, what about their idols? Like, he basically made sure that their idols were going to be played, and we didn't just kind of ignore that and have a consensus boot after knowing all of this. He was like, hey, let's still have that at least happen. So something to at least keep in knowledge. And I mean, it's probably going to upset Marianne and Dre. I could see them coming back and kind of being a little upset that Jonathan kind of pushed it there after their whole conversation. But
That's a possibility. I mean,
yeah,
we'll see
yeah,
next episode, especially since it was the one. Well, I mean, I think they'll show the guy team first and then theirs, but like
mhm.
I think
Do you think they're all going back to the same camp? I imagine that that's going to happen. I feel like we're gonna.
did it last time,
Uh,
because I think it happened last time where they were back at the same camp,
yeah. I think they do.
but
Yeah.
more so I think like them talking about what happened and everything
Mhm.
could come up.
Yeah.
Depending on like how long they actually do talk about it.
Mhm.
Um
Yeah. We're
episode
gonna. Yeah, I mean that's probably going to be the first 10-15 minutes of the episode next week, is just unpacking this vote pretty much. These two votes that one group not realizing that it was that big of a deal,
Yeah,
and then it being a big deal on the other tribe. So
it's funny. I think in a poetic way, Tori never really liked Roxroy, and in the
yeah.
end, Roxroy played a part in Tori's
Yeah. Yeah.
elimination.
By the way, Survivor, how dare you not do Ponderosas this season? How dare you? You are I don't care if it was inconvenient to do it this season. Because that was like a huge part was I think it was just like they had to spare extra people in production, but they had less people this time because of COVID and everything. So they had less people to like say, hey, you guys are the Ponderosa people this time.
Uh,
So
that is unfortunate because a lot of people
yeah,
do like that.
yeah, so, yeah. So because apparently it was just really hard 41, so they were like, let's just not do a 42, which is
We'll hopefully for 43 it comes back and
yeah,
it's not just one of those things that's forgotten.
yeah, because imagine Roxroy and Tori's Ponderosa together. Like, because that's what happens in these double boots. They have to
Yeah.
share a Ponderosa, and you see them doing everything together.
That would have been fun. I really
Like we are missing out on, so like I want to know what was happening with Chanel. Like she would have been able to maybe say some more, in her Ponderosa. Like it is one of my favorite like secret like scene kind of things that Survivor puts out. So Survivor, if you're listening, do it again. Like
I
don't
think I
stop.
think I think they're aware about like how much. I mean, it's different than let's say like the Survivor auction or something or eating challenges
Yeah.
or because it's like, extra content, it's something like extra. And like I think that's part of the reason why we've seen so many like deleted scenes this time around is because they want to give us that extra content. It's just like they can't do Ponderosa. So it's like, okay, here's like something that was we couldn't fit into the episode.
Exactly. But yeah, besides that, just bring it back. It's good. It fills my Survivor appetite. It's the dessert of Survivor, in my opinion. So yeah. Is there anything else we need to talk about for this episode?
I think we covered everything. I mean, these double elimination 2-team episodes always go fast. So it's like
Mhm.
we pretty much covered everything and talked about, Survivor going forward, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Who's your winner pick at this junction of the game?
Omer.
Omer.
Like
Yeah.
I feel like he's the best person like going forward. He's still in
Mhm.
that sleeper threat. I mean,
Yeah.
there's art. I feel like, you know, most people have like a good avenue there.
Mhm.
I would say like I can see win conditions for a lot of these people.
Yeah, it would be
Um,
so interesting if Omer wins, because his winner quotes basically in episode 1 is the same kind of winner's quote of Erica in season 41. And there's an animal analogy about hiding until your time is right. With Erica's the lion and gazelle. I forgot what Omer's was. It was way more confusing. We are not they're not even like showing us
I
that
mean, he's
reoccurring.
wearing an ostrich shirt. It could
Yeah,
be
yeah. Yeah,
Sam.
I don't know. I think it's something with like an elephant or something. I don't know. I
I
guess.
know, like he shoved it, being like a veterinarian.
Yeah,
I know in one of his videos he said that he put his hand in the wrong hole when he was supposed
yeah,
to check to see if someone was pregnant. Uh,
mhm,
I
yeah.
said someone. I forget what animal it was. Look up their most embarrassing moments
Yeah,
because they were a hoot.
yeah, yeah.
To
What's
say the
interesting
least.
about Omer is I think the tribe looks at him more as a sleeper, but Survivor has made it very clear that Omer is important and given him something every episode. People are talking about him in a good way. He has had no negative content whatsoever. We know him personally, we know him strategically. He's basically given you everything from a winner.
Yeah, yeah. Um, second place, or
Um,
like not second place, or like if Omer doesn't make it, like who would be your second option to win, or like who do you think would win?
so it was Mike, but actually this episode has changed my opinion a little bit. I think it's a
All
little
right.
tough for her to get there, but I'm going to say Marianne. I think Marianne has some real potential winner equity here. You know, using her emotions. You know, she had that conventional last week about using it to her advantage,
Yeah, I
and
I
we're,
do
we're
think
seeing it.
I definitely think during the past two episodes, we've
Mhm.
seen a lot of her strength, and not just
Yeah,
like the kookiness. We saw a lot
yeah,
of her kookiness and like the pre-merch and everything,
yeah,
but like now we are seeing like her strength moving forward.
yeah.
So I'd say that's a very fair one. I don't know. It's not just because she's like my last
Yeah,
person.
I mean, you have to say this person because,
Drea.
yeah, yeah,
I feel like she is someone who is strong. She's going to go down swinging,
hmm
and like she'll always go for it. And I mean, like I think now that her Tory seeking missiles are gone,
yeah,
these are what they look like. Like now she can really focus on the game. Not saying that she was not focused on the game, but more so of
hmm
like, all right, she got rid of her biggest like enemy out there.
hmm
Now, like, okay, she can like think of like the other strategy or like the other people more in depth.
hmm
If that, if I'm communicating that
Yeah,
well.
yeah. No, I definitely get that. I see Drea going out around 5 or 6. I see her making a pretty good run, but essentially, like they just realized we can't let her make it any further
I,
around that area.
I feel it's a wee later. I feel 5 or 4
Uh-huh.
if she doesn't make it to the end. Like
Yeah,
I
I don't
feel
know.
like
I don't see her making fire. I don't know. I don't see her making like getting to that point. I think if she's there, I feel like there's a good chance she makes it through unless she faces I guess Mike or Jonathan might, absolutely smoke someone in fire.
I don't know. I can
I would
still
love to see a firefighter in fire. Like, right? That would I don't
that
think
would
that's
be
happened yet,
interesting.
right? I don't think so.
No,
Yeah.
I have to think. No,
Yeah.
I'm also tired, so I'm not gonna think. It
Yeah.
hasn't happened yet.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Okay, I know you're tired, but I want to do one last thing here before we wrap it up here. Okay, this will be a little fun exercise. If you had to call the boot hole order moving forwards from 8th place here to the winner, how do you see this season playing out if you had the ability to kind of like look and see, okay, this person goes out here, that what about, and then moving forward, like is there do you
this is
see?
just so much to just spring up on me.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, it's a fun, final eight. This is probably a better chance to have some accuracy here, in my opinion.
All right. Uh, I can see next week high going
Mhm,
because I feel like his and then like even Mike was saying next time like, oh, high betrayed me.
mhm,
So I feel like there's going to be a lot of heat on him. I'd
mhm.
say at 7, it's a little tricky because of the
Do or die, yeah.
do or die, but I don't think it's going to be Lindsay.
Mhm,
I would say if let's say the do or die doesn't really play a big factor into it,
mhm.
I can see it being there's so much. This is a lot to like think. All
Yeah,
right,
no,
I'm
no,
gonna
no
save
worries.
that one for later. Who I think is going to be in the end? I definitely think after this episode, I think Romeo might be in the final three.
Mhm,
I think Omer. I think it's Omer's going to win. Somewhere in the mix, Romeo is going to be there in the final tribal council. I think Mike. I don't kind of want to say Mike in the sense where I feel like he's more of like the 6, 5, or 4. I'm
mhm.
actually going to say Lindsay is going to like, kind of sleep her way through there. I don't think she's going to win. I think at this point, it's really a toss up between 4, 5, 6, and 7. I feel Drea might go out at 4 or 5. I'm just going to say she goes out 4. Jonathan loses at 5. Who's left?
We got Mike. We got Mike, Marianne.
Well, Mike and Marianne, those are the only 2 left.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, see, this is so hard. You go.
Okay, because I think I know what I would probably say here. So I do think Romeo goes home next. I think after these 2 tribal councils back, like, because we got to remember, day 16 Chanel goes home, day 17 we have a double tribal council. I could see, despite some rifts happening here, some of these people in the top still being like, we need a break day pretty much, or a break tribal council. Romeo is a very easy one for them to like regain and like get their troops together. So I'm going to say Romeo. I've already said I think Lindsay will get the do or die, so I'll put her at 7. Then I am going to put Hai going home at 6th, Drea going home at 5th, and then I am going to put I'm going to say Marianne goes home at fire, and then Omer wins. Mike gets 2nd, and Jonathan gets 3rd.
I can see that happening. Did you just think of that, or was it something that came in like before the episode started, or like before we started?
That's me, just like I thought of it just like in this moment, just like what if we broke down, because we haven't done something like that, like a boot order
kind of fair
situation. So I was just like, well, what do we think the future has in store for the season?
It's definitely something moving forward. Like, I know like we've gotten changed our schedule, so like usually we would do it on Thursdays, now we're doing it on Wednesdays. Or filming wise for you at home. Ryan is an early bird, so like sometimes staying up is tricky for Ryan. And so like and also like if I'm coming right out of the episode too, like my ideas are fresh. I would say like moving forward, thinking about the game ahead of time is a little tricky since I still need to like digest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's still a lot moving forward here. But yeah, that's we'll check back in at the finale of our recap and see how our boot list kind of fares.
Yeah, I guess like because I didn't finish my list, I'll say Marianne is 6, and then Mike is 7.
Got it.
It was mostly because I kind of made my list weird, and I feel like. I'm just guessing.
Sorry. You started in different areas and kind of was like, who's left? And then you're like, fuck. Like, your last few people were
this is why Ryan's picks for his draft team suck.
Yeah, I went pretty hard. Like I really wanted to win this one. I was like, I'm gonna pick the people who I was like so sure they're not going home early.
And the thing was, I don't feel like I was wrong in any of my picks except for like obviously Jackson, but that was also because I didn't see the thing, and I had the opportunity to, but I just didn't.
Yeah, well, I would say your first 3 picks, I thought preseason were pretty solid picks. Like I think you had 3, like you started strong, and then you had like Swathi, Lindsay, Lydia.
I think on paper, Swati was better.
Yeah,
I feel Lindsay admittedly was a wild card, but also I wanted to, I wanted to make sure that I had my artists on my team.
Yeah.
Who else?
I think you said Lindsay is the artist, but you meant Lydia.
Lydia, they have similar sound. And I'm tired.
Yeah.
And Lindsay, I was watching her stuff, and I'm like, don't count her out just yet. She might be counted out at this point.
Yeah,
but
I'd count her
further So there's some merit to my
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you chose Roxroy over Romeo, getting the last pick. These are, our last season, our final picks were Xander and Heather, who got third and fourth. So a little better on who our last picks were. So
Ryan just shouldn't pick teams.
Uh,
That's why when I use, even though I'm really great at Pokemon, when
mhm.
I'm going through a Nuzlocke or something, I have to use a checker,
Right.
like to make sure I have all the coverage and stuff.
Mhm.
I've lost all confidence in choosing a team. Never make me a team captain.
Okay, well, we know now if you ever on Survivor and they're doing a captain's related thing, don't trust Ryan to be the captain of that.
No, I'm just going.
Yeah, you'd create like Gabon styled teams, so just like you get all the
Three
older ones.
blondes.
Yeah, you get all the blondes. They don't know how to build a shelter, and you're like, we don't need one. We can sleep in the sand.
I'm not that inept. If anything, I don't know. I wouldn't know how I would play until I obviously saw the people, but like if this is any indication, I'll have like two people that will make it really far with me, assuming that I get far. I don't know.
Yeah, you're the pre-merge one that goes out, but your alliance members are the ones to like win the game.
That sounds like my luck.
Yeah, I mean that's how you have done these drafts so far. You end up having the winner pick out of nowhere, but everyone else gets taken. Yeah, it's happened twice. Okay, yeah, it's. But we've only done this 3 times, so.
Well, this is the fourth,
This
but I mean,
is
like,
4. Yeah.
you all but have it in the bag.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
all
even if you get the winner at this point, I feel like I feel like the point system at this point just it doesn't matter.
Yeah, like I said, I'm just.
Yeah.
Anywho, I'm going to cry myself to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. And we had said previously about potentially having Danny Boatwright as the one, but in the case, because I don't want it to seem mean spirited when we end up having a cameo. So there's a chance we might deviate a little bit from.
You
that
and I
cameo.
will discuss this later.
Yeah.
As we approach it. I mean, I have like 3 months to like think. Yeah, 3 months, weeks.
Yeah.
Jesus, I'm tired. Stop dragging out the video.
I know. I'm just seeing how far Ryan's insanity can get.
I will. It's already there, man.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Yeah, you should just drink a coffee. That wouldn't be problematic at this time.
I have class and I have 2 auditions to do tomorrow. I'm playing a drug addict in one of the auditions, but I have to be prepping in the other, so I can't be.
Yeah.
I'm going to say peace. I'm going to say peace.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think that's a good end to this. But we have one more thing. I'm just kidding.
Peace out.
That's the end of the episode. Adios, guys.